So good to be here in jolly old England, enjoying our fish and chips, Buckingham Palace, London Bridge and more. Even managed to pick up this great accent in a gift shop for only £99.
Do you live, eat, and sleep the hotel industry? Looking to brush up on your game? You've come to the right place. Welcome to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the No Vacancy podcast with me, Glenn Hausman. I'm so excited to have you here, as I am each and every week. I'm so sorry for having this show up a little bit late. Just got back from London, just hopped off a flight, got through JFK. I was with my family, so I was not able to use my global entry. So that was a real treat, getting to hang out on that line with all the other travelers for a good half an hour, trying to get through customs. So we finally got our bags, and I had to get the van to the car, and then we had to drive the car all the way home, and now I'm home, and happy to be talking to you guys today. What a week it has been. Oh, man, it's great. My family was off from school this week, and I had a job in London, so I said, hey, why not take the whole crew along with me? So that was a lot of fun. But before I get into that, I want to just say that this show is, of course, brought to you in part by Duetto, the revenue strategy technology platform that thousands of hotels are using to make more money. You know how much I love these guys. They are really terrific, and I want you to learn all about revenue strategy as well. I've got this great podcast focused all on it, featuring their CEO, Patrick Bosworth. Everything you need to know about revenue strategy, how it works, and all these great stuff. Plus, I want you to learn more about Duetto, since they are doing such great sponsors of this show at getrevenueresults.com. That's getrevenueresults.com, and learn how they can save you money by making you more money every single night. And also check out our show on Potable if you're not listening to it on there. That's a fun little network of different shows. You can discover things. The more shows that you listen to, the more it gets to know you, the more it'll recommend interesting shows based on the content that you listen to, as opposed to simply just randomly picking out shows. Really interesting. It looks through the podcast to know what some of the common themes are that you like, and it'll start to recommend you. Really interesting search engine. And you know what else? We're getting so close to AHOA. It's only 1 month away. Can't wait. Annual Convention and Trade Show, March 27th through 30th, where I'll be broadcasting from there. Got lots of great interviews that I'm going to be setting up, speaking to a lot of folks that are part of the AHOA family, capturing their stories and advice from thousands of folks there that are living the American dream every single day. Ah, man, they are so great. All right. I can't wait to be there. And thank you, Red Roof, for sponsoring that one. I know I'll be talking to their president, Andy Alexander. All right. So, let's get down to the nitty gritty. Let's get this show on the road, man. I was in London, like I said, had a great time. So much fun being in a foreign country with your family on a holiday break. And, this sort of thing rarely happens. A lot of times I'll be heading to some sort of event where it's not even possible on a vacation week for my family to come with me, but this just all lined up perfectly. I was going to be attending something called the Business Travel Show in London, and that is an interesting event because I don't usually get to see that side of the business here. Usually I'm on the brand side, on the financial side, but this type of trip, I wasn't, or sometimes management company events, and but this one was different because it was focused on all the folks that buy travel in the business. So it was more of like seeing what the other side of life is all focused on, the types of things that they need to buy. So they did have hosted buyers there, but they were all folks that purchase travel for their companies. So, just think every major company, IBM, et cetera, motor companies, every single business that you guys travel for business, exactly what it's like. So they have these travel managers. So airline companies are there, transportation companies, of course, hotels and service departments, travel groups such as Amex and Carlson Wagonlit Travel, and all. I said the airlines are there, but it's really cool. They really spend a lot of money here. It's very, very good event for seeing how people spend money. They got food and booze in every single one of the booths. A lot of schmoozing going on. It was really terrific. So, I had that event for Here to Stay TV. Make sure you check out Here to Stay TV on YouTube. And, excuse me, I'm running all of them on novacancynews.com as well. And I'm going to have a lot of great interviews coming out from that event. 2 days, I think I did 22 interviews, 3 show reports, and a podcast, which you'll hear coming up, with the CEO of BridgeStreet, Sean Worker. Really interesting interview. You're not going to want to miss it, because we talk all about transforming a business from one purpose to a complete other. Technology is such a big thing right now. It's really transforming how hospitality companies work. Well, this one is taking a little bit further. They're turning from a traditional service apartment provider into the place to go for folks to book service apartments. That means they've created a platform in which everybody can come onto the site and book the service departments. It's transforming the way travel managers do business and consumers too. And it's one of those situations where service departments are really coming to their own. So we learned, how do you turn a business from what's essentially selling room nights every single night and managing those assets to just becoming a technology interface between the consumers and the providers, between the supply side and the demand side. So it's a wholesale reinvention of the way that they're doing business. I got to meet their new COO this week. Really great guy. He used to work with Starwood back in the day when the Heavenly Bed was created. So he was part of the creation of W Brand and all of that. So it's an interesting visionary. Plus, they got a great tech guy from eBay. So wild story. You're going to want to hear that as well. All right. So me, I'm on this business trip. I'm with my family. I don't really get to do that sort of thing very often. The last time I went away with my family was for kids' bar mitzvah. We went to Jerusalem and Tel Aviv and Masada. Lots of really cool stuff. So I wanted to repeat that. And I have these frequent flyer miles. So we cashed in the frequent flyer miles, and we flew out a number of days early and got to stay at this wonderful Best Western Hotel. It was so great. It was in the Swiss Cottage area. So it's in this great little residential area near Regent's Park, and it's like really peaceful and quiet because it's a neighborhood, right? A real neighborhood. And yet it's so close. The underground was literally a block away, and 3 stops away in the underground in the Jubilee line, we were in the heart of all the fun. And it was so cool because this hotel that's much more classic feeling. Really represents what I felt to be classic UK design, everything you would think about. What are those tropes, those design tropes that you think of when it comes to England and the olden days? And that is exactly what this place was. I absolutely loved it. It was fun. The kids loved it. The wife loved it. And we had some amazing Indian food in that neighborhood. So you know how much I love that Indian food. And got to see some really cool places while we were there, We saw Kensington Palace, and we saw Westminster Abbey, which is the most amazing collection of dead people that I've ever seen in my entire life. Yeah, the architecture is great, but, the famous dead people that you read about in the history books was unbelievable. We did the same thing at Windsor Castle, which we went to on Friday, which is why this show is late. I had a great day doing that. So, lots of religious places, lots of famous dead people. Tower of London was a pretty cool thing. For me, I'm a big history buff in the sense that I love being able to step back in time and try to, feel and touch what it was like to live in a completely different era. And you go to something like the Tower of London, which dates back to, like 1080, I believe it is. It's pretty spectacular. Then you go to Westminster Abbey and you see all this major, major history from the last 500 years, 600 years. It's absolutely spectacular to be able to see that. Plus, I just love design and architecture, and I'm always amazed that they were able to build these things hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago. So that was really unbelievable as well. Then of course I had to go to the business travel show, and we had a great day doing that. Well, I had 2 great days doing that while my family went out and had a fun time doing all the typical tourist traps like the London Eye and the London Dungeon and all that kind of fun stuff. But yesterday, I got to tell you, it was a really amazing day. I should say also that after we stayed at the Best Western Swiss Cottage, sorry I'm jumping around. Like I said, just got off a flight. You got to forgive me, all right? 8-hour flight. I've been up all day. It was a crazy long week. Family, work, you know where I'm coming from. This is my confession to you. Please forgive me here. I think I'm going a little bit crazy. Okay, so we stayed at this great apartment in this area right by St. Paul's Cathedral. 2-bedroom apartment It was really fantastic. So in contrast to that classic UK that feeling that we got at the amazing Best Western Swiss Cottage, then we switched over to another place, a BridgeStreet place, and what I loved about that was that it was a real modern apartment, 2-bedroom apartment, plenty of space, a room for the wife and I, a room for the kids, and then a whole living area, 2 separate bathrooms. It was like heaven. And it was really great to have that extra space to be able to get organized, put on that suit that I had to wear for a couple of days to get out of the house without waking the family. Because, they were on vacation all week while Daddy was out there trying to pay the bills. You know how it is. So Friday, back to Friday. Great day for me. The wife loves Windsor Castle. She loves the history, especially of royalty and following what the royal family is up to for hundreds and hundreds of years. She's a real enthusiast, and for her to be able to stand over the tomb of Henry VIII was a really meaningful, special moment. And seeing Windsor Castle and going through the tour in it and what it's like. Really fabulous. I didn't like that as much. I'm not into the whole royal thing, but I do like the history angle. So, I'm torn between not caring between the royal family, but also appreciating the whole historical aspect of it, but not my favorite part of the day. My favorite part of the day was I went to Stonehenge, and I got to have something called a pasty, which was delicious. It was like a stuffed meat pie with onion. No, but that was not the highlight. The highlight was being able to see Stonehenge itself, something I've always wanted to see. It's something that's been really mysterious to me, something that's been on my bucket list for, as long as I can remember. So to be standing so close to such amazing history, prehistory, 5,000 years old, it's just unbelievable to me. The oldest connection that I've had to something. I've seen at the British Museum older pieces of art, from many decades, hundreds and thousands of years before that. But Stonehenge is just something different, something special, something that is so filled with mystery because, it's partly religious altar. It's partly, science. It's all sorts of things. And also, there's a confluence with Christianity that comes in there as well that I find interesting because, as you know, the prehistorical people, they had holidays that aligned with the seasons, particularly the solstice. And at Stonehenge, at the winter solstice, the sun goes up between 2 very specific stones that I can't remember the name of them now. Did I mention I'm just coming off an airplane ride, right? So, with the family, having to deal with customs, I'm exhausted. So, the sun comes right up through there on December 21st, the winter solstice. And as you may know, when Christianity first came around and trying to get the other folks, the non-Christians, to become Christians, they kind of made all of the holidays right around that, around those calendars, the established events, Easter, the spring holidays, and the winter solstice being the Christmas holiday, which is why we celebrate it then. So I like that connection with the prehistoric world and the ancient world, the early Christianity world, and all of that. So really fascinating to me. Then we went up to the city of Bath, where I had another awesome pasty, and we got to see these Roman baths with hot springs and stuff dating back a couple of thousand years, which, also, in addition to Stonehenge, both UNESCO World Heritage sites, but Bath, after seeing that, it's only 2,000 years old. It's not that big of a deal, so that was pretty funny. The city is absolutely gorgeous. I got to be honest with you, I had no idea what Bath really was until we showed up over there, and really great time. I wish I had more time to spend in there. I wish I had more time to spend in some of the pubs in England. Man, was that a lot of fun. Okay, here's the deal. I'm tired. I don't really feel like talking anymore. I feel like you're probably thinking, Glenn, hey, you're phoning this in. Maybe you should just shut up. I'm going to take your advice, and I'm going to go right to the interview with Sean Worker, the president and CEO of BridgeStreet Global Hospitality. This interview is so cool. Talking about how we transform an entire company, really getting into the mind of a CEO, really starting to understand what that individual is thinking, how the strategy works, and how the inner workings of a company comes together to create something that's new, different, and exciting, and in the end, maybe even self-evident. I hope you enjoy the show, and we'll be right back after this message.
Have a question for your host, Glenn? Tweet him now at Traveling Glenn. No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast. We'll be right back.
From Eureka to San Diego and Malibu to Bakersfield, the California Lodging Investment Conference, CLIC, is one of a kind, focusing exclusively on our Golden States hotel market. CLIC was launched in 2016 by Craig Sullivan, a seasoned hospitality industry professional, to harness the knowledge of our industry leaders, support our community, and educate emerging talent. CLIC brings together lodging professionals from California and beyond for one day of learning, professional development, and networking. If you are an owner, operator, investor, broker, developer, lender, management company, brand, or professional services provider, you should plan on attending CLIC 2 on March 8th, 2018 at the Hilton Irvine Orange County Airport. We invite you to go check out the California Lodging Investment Conference website at cliconference.com for the latest details and sponsorship opportunities. Early registration now open. And as a listener of the No Vacancy with Glenn Hausman podcast, please make sure to use our exclusive discount code of No Vacancy when registering for this one-of-a-kind in California hospitality event that sold out in its very first year.
Back to the show. It's No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast with your host, Glenn Hausman.
So tea, you love drinking tea. You're telling me. What's your favorite type of tea?
I'm back in my part of the world, so I know this is going to sound corny. The Harrods has great loose tea, so that's my secret pleasure.
I like it. All right, good. Makes sense.
Yeah, so I get authentic tea when I can.
Now, I'm not a tea guy. I'm a coffee guy. I find that to be very, very important to my day. I got to tell you, we're here in London, and I have a hard time with the Americano coffee. It's not the drip coffee that I'm used to. I love the idea of the Americano coffee, but I guess I'm an addict, and it doesn't really do it for me in the mornings.
So you're not a Nescafe guy, are you? You are.
Yes and no. I like the pods are great.
Perfect.
For example, I do like that, and I like the pods that we saw today at the BridgeStreet booth at Business Travel Show, which incidentally is why we're here. And I'm with Sean Worker, the CEO of BridgeStreet. Great to see you, by the way.
And Glenn, great to be seen by you.
Yes, and as much as I like to talk about beverages all day long, it was it's a lot of fun. The business travel environment. People say it's a little soft, but that's not the indication that I felt, not the indication that I saw at a conference that was just chock full of travel managers. Buy. What was your impression?
There's such a dichotomy between what you read here, especially here. It's an obsession with, what will or will not happen with Brexit.
Right.
With this kind of longer view uncertainty. But short-term, absolute get on with it and business optimism. And there's a vibrancy to, again, what you just said, get it done, and it's well attended. Yeah,
what do you think? How do you think people are able to do that mentally, to not worry about it now and just kind of let things kind of happen?
Because there's no certainty to it. There's no real date. There's no real discussions. There's still even debate on TV, and there's buses now being driven around by the Remain group with all of the statistics as to the financial impact of the exit.
Right.
It seems like the debate continues, but the action doesn't match it.
Right.
There's just a continuous debate rather than just getting on with it.
You think they should just pull off the Band-Aid? Do you think that's going to happen? Or is this Remain thing going to mean anything?
Because this is unprecedented, the last major referendum was really the Good Friday Agreement for Northern Ireland 20 years ago. So this is a momentous event that is very unsettling because nobody knows what's the other side of that Band-Aid.
Right.
And so while you have uncertainty, there's uncertainty with decision-making, there's uncertainty in the real estate market to some extent, and I don't think you can expedite it.
Yeah, I'm making a face over here that you guys who are listening can't really see, but there's always this uncertainty thing that bothers me. And the same thing's happening with American politics, not the current state of the situation, but I'm thinking flashing back to a year or so ago before the election took place. Nobody knew what was going to happen. So everybody was just kind of waiting and seeing. I seem to be of the philosophy of, what are you going to do, just wait and see your entire life, or are you just going to get on with it and make some important decisions?
I think the markets have essentially factored in uncertainty at this point, and the markets generally are a reflection of humanity and the shoal of fish that can waver one direction or another. So now that the markets are kind of built in whether it's a North Korean issue or whether it's a dramatic change in a society's choice to be part of a common market, or whether it's a political event, or sadly, if it's something worse like, a school shooting. For some reason, the resilience level and the tolerance level of the general population is, let's get on with it.
It really is, especially...
Which is probably pretty healthy.
It is healthy in one sense, but it's kind of sad in another sense that all of these major events that happen, that we're not taking the time to reflect on it and react on it in a specific sort of way. But at the same time, I think human beings are meant to be resilient, meant to bounce back. And the more terrorism that we see, for example, I think the less that we're stopped by it, right? And business responds as usual.
Right, which is what you would hope, right? You're not paralyzed by it. You have resilience by it, and you gain energy from it to actually resist it.
Right.
And that's probably healthy for humanity. Maybe that's why we're seeing unprecedented commonality of growth in multiple economies that are in sync.
Right.
There's a certain synchronicity to this growth that is relatively abnormal, which is good for all of us. Business travel moves, decisions are getting made, and people are just getting on with them. That's good. That's good for all of us.
Which is good, and we should get on with it, because this conversation is taking a turn to depressing, which I did not expect.
I'm going back to my tea now.
Yeah, which is probably a smart idea. So, Business Travel Show, it's exciting. For those of you who don't know what the Business Travel Show is, it's a premier show here in London, England. Every single year they do it. It's where all the travel managers come together to buy the products, be it service departments such as your world at Bridge Street, or airlines, or car rentals, or even sort of Virgin Trains, for example, there. So it was great to see that everybody's out was purchasing. With some of the folks that I spoke to today on the travel buy side, they're saying they're getting busier and busier, and they don't see any stop to it. So that's kind of exciting bellwether to me for the overall state of business travel.
Yeah, so I think supply and demand, or supply is probably lagging demand at this point, which everything that we've read from everything from Smith Travel to the other pundits that are in the space are suggesting optimism. Equally, some of the supply on our side could be service apartments or homes, and in certain jurisdictions they're actually overbuilt and projecting to be overbuilt. So, there's always these lags between the different types of supply, but certainly the broad range enthusiasm of professionals that are at the Business Travel Show is encouraging. And the other part is really when you go up on the second level, the absolute explosion of travel tech.
Yes, and they have a European technology show that's going on.
Right. So you between both of those, it's unprecedented to see that level of layered technology to enable everything from payment to efficient purchasing models and efficiency attributes, that they're connecting one travel experience to another. So it's pretty interesting what's going on.
It is interesting. Technology is just changing absolutely everything. And I got to tell you, I love talking about it, but I'm starting to feel like that's all I ever talk about. But it's so significant. It's so important. When I got into this business, and it's scary to say that I've been in the hospitality industry now 20 plus years, right? When it first started, we didn't even have the internet. And now everything is taking place on that smartphone that we have in our hands. It's pretty crazy, and we're moving forward really quickly. How, as a CEO, do you know what's important with technology? You know what to chase and what to ignore?
So there's the epitome of, I think, not just what I do, but what families choose, what technology they put in their homes, what works for them, what doesn't, because it's such an experiment of how all of these fit together in a house. So the Internet of Things. It's interesting for businesses, because where do you deploy capital that may have a long lead but a short life if you get it wrong? And so we're probably in travel lagging behind some of the upfront technology that's really guiding us. So I think our risk is a little lower. So the iPhone is 10 years old, and we've moved from a simple device that had some functionality to being the device. I mean, you're completely centered on that. So from a traveler perspective, everything has to be on that phone, no matter what you're buying. And it's premium real estate, right? The average person may have 3 side swipes to their phone, and that's probably 30 apps. Valuable real estate. So, travel both on the demand side and the supply side, if it's not on the phone, it doesn't count. So it makes it easier for us to think about we have to offer our product in a fast, simple, ubiquitous way, but it must be on the phone so you can work back from there.
And that's kind of, I think, been, in getting to know you over time and seeing how the service department industry is going. And for those of you who listen to the show know I seem to talk about this a lot. And it's a lot because, Sean over here has gotten me involved deeply in this through Here to StayTV, for example, which we work on together. But it's interesting how technology is transformed not just the hospitality business, but your business in particular. Because beforehand, it used to be, we've heard of these apartment things, but nobody really knew what they were. Nobody really knew how to connect with them. And now I can go on my phone and book this amazing apartment that I have here in the middle of London.
Well, the best thing about having 5,000 corporate customers, Inc. 5,000, and about 2,500 supply partners that are in the broader space, homes, service apartments, and extended stay hotels, you can actually survey them quickly and frequently to ask them what their needs are and then build around that.
Right.
So, our big leap was saying, what do we want to be? And so we're transitioning from being a traditional service department operator to being a platform. And that platform now has... a year ago we had nothing on. Now we have 144,000 home service departments and extended stay products, with another 200,000 in the pipeline. So the genesis for that was as simple as asking a travel buyer what their pain points were and asking a supply partner what their pain points were, and they're roughly the same. I have a user, being the travel partner, who's saying, I need to book something that's for 5 nights or more across a wide range of accommodation, the same way I book a hotel, a car, air. Has to be that simple. Right. Duty of care, simple to work with. On the supply side, they're going, how do I get to that customer easily and efficiently? So we decided to just go one layer above that and create a distribution platform.
Hey, sounds simple enough, but not simple. I mean, how do you go ahead and create something out of whole cloth that's going to be something that's embraced by both sides of those equation while maintaining yourself in the middle and being the go-to place?
Well, a couple of things. This is really easy. One is have a good capital partner and sponsor like Versa. Mm-hmm. The second thing is go hire really smart people.
Right.
So we did that. So our CTO, Aaron Turner, who came from eBay and was heading up Magenta and eBay Enterprise, had a lot of experience in this. So get some smart people. It's amazing what happens when you go and find the best in class. When
you've been putting this together with Aaron, is there like something that you learned that you didn't expect to learn that really kind of changed your point of view about what you wanted to do with technology?
One is I'm a Neanderthal when it comes to technology, so I actually had to teach myself what that meant and what each component and how that component attaches itself to another part to create a whole. And so a lot of that was, let's do a lot of whiteboarding as to where we want to be and then iterate. Separately, all of the steps we had to take to get to a point where you could book in real time,
right,
anywhere, in any medium. All of the bits that we put together, all of them had to work. So you had to be all in. So, we learned a lot about being tenacious and patient and a little tense and all of that. When you're disrupting in a sector, it's all got to work.
But how? To me, I'm sorry, I'm stumbling right now. But for me, the interesting issue is that we don't know technology the way that folks that are steeped in it on a day-to-day basis are, or how technology natives, such as younger people who have come up with this technology, understand it. So I always think, it's going to take X amount of time to do something, and then it takes 5 times as much time. How do you know what's reasonable, what's not reasonable for these things to come together? And more importantly, how do you have the patience to see it all the way through?
I probably, those of us that have been in construction or building large projects,
right?
They always take longer and cost more, and they never quite turn out the way that you thought, but they should turn out pretty well. So you're largely in that mode. The second thing is we're not the first to do it. We made a choice to buy versus generally build, so that we assembled best-in-class technology and stitched it together. So that took out a lot of risk. So it's like buying to best-in-class kitchen manufacturers. Don't try and make it yourself.
Right.
Don't get in the back garden and go in the back and make some doors and some cabinets. Go buy best-in-class, good German engineering, right? So we went and bought best-in-class and got best-in-class people that had been there, continue to have focus groups, both internally with our own teammates, customers, supply partners. So each step of the way, there was one iteration. You test that, you go to the next stage, you test that. So it's and then you get to your destination after a roadmap. We knew generally where we were going, and then we got more specific as we probably had phase one or the first epic. Then it got much more specific, and we were getting pretty dangerous at that point as to what our achievement would be.
Yeah, because to me, I'm seeing a lot of the hotel companies now have become technology companies in a lot of ways. Everybody has to learn so much in order to maintain where they were just a number of years ago because of all the changes that were happening. So how do you figure out what you don't know? Because I think a lot of us are blind to the things that we don't know. One of my favorite sayings is, I don't know what I don't know, and I want to learn what I don't know. What's your method to making sure that you are fully aware of everything that's happening around you so you're not myopic with your point of view when it comes to topics that you're not an expert in?
So a number of us just got on planes and just went and found technologists or platforms that we would like to emulate and sat down with their principals and said, what makes you successful? Tell us where your flaws were. Can we partner? And it's amazing when you sit down over a glass of wine or a cup of coffee or even tea,
right?
And you sit there with bright people, and people want to talk about that because we learn from each other. So I think the other interesting thing was, as we put our foot into technology, was technologists are very open. They're open with open sourcing. It's widely recognized that coffee shops around Silicon Valley, you walk in there and you go, hey, I've got a problem with. And somebody's going to help you because it's kind of pay it forward. Mm-hmm. So that was really helpful. We had a lot of really good conversations like that. I think we also learned from be humble. And, having come from the hotel sector, we decided not to defend our castle. Because, it's a natural instinct for a single brand to defend the vertical. We were going to the horizontal to go across service apartments, homes, alternative types of accommodation, as well as service extended stay hotels. So you don't actually defend anything; you grow it.
Right, and then you're doing something extremely radical. You're inviting the wolves into your den because
they're our friends.
Yeah, to imagine several hotel brands trying to partner up on a technology issue would be interesting, but you've spearheaded it, and now you've got people that would traditionally be considered
as a competitor,
but they're not. Now they're co-conspirators.
Well,
right?
I think it's building up a community that trusts each other. Mm-hmm. Right? We had to be clear in our intentions, and we really went out to the community and said, "This is what we're going to do. We're actually going to reduce our lease exposure. We're not going to compete with the typical everybody bidding for a site. We're out of that business." Mm-hmm. And once they got comfort that we were going to be very clear in our algorithms where the BridgeStreet brand would be subordinated and there would be no preference for a BridgeStreet asset, and they saw that appear. So each time we over-communicated. We went to our community of homes, service apartments, and others in the space and really had a lot of one-on-ones.
Right.
A lot of one-on-ones.
So basically what we're talking about here is if you go to bridgestreet.com, you will see you can book in real time service apartments and homes and all of these types of places, but it's not just your brand.
No.
You're dealing with all the major brands and the sub-brands and all of the smaller companies. Everybody's been kind of invited to the table, and they each get a seat that's the same size no matter how big the company is. So it's a true meritocracy that you've put together.
Yeah, and we had to remove ourselves from being, the brand and let the user tell the community how they're doing. So we have a API connection into TripAdvisor, and that client, that guest, tells the rest of the community how we all did, because that's a uniform way for how we buy. You go on Amazon, you don't buy the generator. You go first, you look at what all the previous purchasers said, said, well, is this a good generator or not? You're not going to believe Amazon. You're going to believe the users. So we took the same approach. Then we're not going to validate the quality of the business we're dealing with, because we only do business with businesses, not individuals, because that's our bargain for the duty of care with our travel managers, that we're impartial and vetted and guaranteed. We partnered with Deloitte to go and actually perform the validation of the businesses. We partnered with the associations in all the spaces, and if they had accreditation that matched the base minimum of our testing, we accepted that. So we wanted a community that was built by the community, but access, because we've got an extensive sales force, we're getting you indoors. Individually you wouldn't, but now you're exposed to many versus a few. And so it's a new model for distribution.
It's a very new model for distribution. I think it's
We're not
radical.
just throwing stuff up on paying Google Words, and
right.
We're optimizing through SEO.
And it seems like you're trying to protect yourself from all of these changes that are happening out there in the future by banding together and creating this space for all the travel managers to see all the products out there. Then you're not going to let those disruptors, even though you're a disruptor, come in and then disrupt you. I mean, we speak a lot in the hotel industry side about what's Google going to do? What's Google going to do? Are they going to change everything? Because I think everybody is fearful of another 2002 after 9/11, when the hotel companies just said, "Here, internet companies, we don't know what we're talking about. Take all our inventory." Right? So it seems to me that this move, you're really girding yourself against future disruptors by creating a community.
Yeah, we're tech-enabled. So we're a tech-enabled platform as opposed to a technology platform. So we enable buyers and sellers to transact in a transparent manner. We're not trying to be bookings.com. What we're trying to be is a bespoke business-to-business model that allows us to build on 20 years of experience, knowing what a customer wants and what a supply partner wants, and put them together.
It's so interesting to me, because since you've been CEO, you started the company. When you came to the company, you started at the company, it was very different than what it is now, and where it's heading. As a CEO, that sounds to me like a particularly fun but extremely difficult challenge to reorient your entire team to a new way of thinking, to create a new direction for the company, and basically creating a new company within an old company.
I just chaired the meeting. I asked, that's it. This isn't mine by any stretch. It's with our capital partners, it's with my teammates, and asking ourselves, what do we think the market will be a couple of years from now? And how do we solve for being everywhere? We need to be ubiquitous. Because, again, this came from the feedback from the travel managers.
Right.
I only want to deal with a brand or a company or a disruptor or a .com where you're conventional.
Right.
It's taking something conventional and making it even more conventional, right? Yes, I know each element, but I need it all in one, because they're dealing with 1970s, 80s technology. Content is served up through the GDS, or it's served up through tools like Concur, or it's served up through their own platforms. And we need to be able to digitally serve that up in real time in bits and bytes that are high quality. And you take very disparate data. The biggest problem we had was in a hotel room. A hotel room is a hotel room. There's different attributes, but fundamentally, the shape is the shape. All of our products, none of them are the same. No, not even in the same building. We're sitting here, in one of your properties in London, but I'm from 1666, might I add? Yes, which is pretty cool to be in something so. And it hasn't been renovated since, as you can tell. Well, nothing but the best for me, right? No, it's absolutely gorgeous here, and what I find fascinating is, I don't know how many units are here. I didn't count them, but I'm pretty sure that you have a high percentage of ones that are completely different than each and every other one of them. So you don't just have 2 or 3 room categories. You have 50 room categories. Right, so you have different sizes, and now they might, for how we present them though, it's ones, it's twos, it's studios. So it's very similar to the way a travel buyer would, but the attributes of the size may be different. But the functionality and how we've built this is, you get the same features and service as a select service hotel at different tiers. The other issue was pricing tiering. within the traditional service department, very little was at the top and very little was at the 2 and 3 star. It mostly lived in the middle. Imagine the world being populated by standard Marriotts, outstanding products, but no price tiering, no differentiation. So it was very hard for a buyer and very hard for this community to yield. So we've I think fairly successfully made sense of that, through pricing hierarchy, attribute hierarchy, meaning pets, large, small. Do you want, we form partnerships with Blue Apron, WeWorks, Grubhub, Duffel to provide similar amenities to what you'd expect in a hotel. Right now, you and I could order Blue Apron, or we could order Grubhub, and you're getting the food you want the way you want it, be it if you're staying 7 nights or 3 months. You want a good organic meal, it's coming to your door.
Right.
You want to ship your bag home with duffel, you can do that. You need meeting space, hop on our API connection to WeWork and you got meeting space. So we needed to make it conventional, easy for you to live and do business.
Right. And that is the same thing that's
that's
happening with the
difficult.
technology side. It is absolutely difficult.
And we offer that for our entire supply community.
It's so interesting, though, to make something so difficult seem so easy. And I think that's the real challenge.
Well, but again, I genuinely go back to our FOBs, our friends of BridgeStreet, of which you were one. And, you sit down with bright people and we outsource a lot. And when you sit down with business owners who are specialists and you get around, we have whiteboards all over our office, as you'd probably expect. It's amazing when you just throw up a problem and occasionally we might have a couple of beers while we're doing it.
That's nice.
But,
I like that.
Yeah. But, it tends that we all focus on a problem and with different motivations and experiences, you solve it. There's nothing we're doing that's not unsolvable. There really isn't.
No, but you have to ask the right questions to solve. I think that is what the real puzzle is.
And there's a lot of our team and a lot of our extended team and our sponsor that, there's pretty heated debates about what is the right question. That's probably the best question you asked, what is the right question?
Right, yeah.
And, if you spend a lot of time on that and you just let it, and everybody processes differently, so you can, maybe some people need to think about it overnight and let it settle, they're on a bike or they're doing something like that. It's amazing what comes back and you can solve for this.
All right, so then let me switch it up a little bit. Forget the technology part.
Yep.
You as a leader, how do you make sure that all of your people feel that they can be heard and excel both in the moment and in their career path with BridgeStreet?
So I think as we go through leadership cycles, it's always about the window of time you're affecting that change in, and then it stretching your natural style to where the team needs to be rather than where you want to be. So how do you do that? So we like every Monday in our office, we hold a huddle. We tape that, we video, put it out on content, and the entire company gets an update from my colleagues. We celebrate things every Monday. We talk about where we are on projects. We talk about customers that have onboarded, supply partners who are onboarded, the state of our financials. And then we broadcast that and we put it out that evening. And there's an equivalent one in the European office, and that gets posted. So teammates that are working remotely can get connected every Monday and know what's going on. Teammates in the office are participating in it. So that's one mechanism. We equally have a variety of away days that we schedule about every 4 months or less to work through our agreement from one to another against our target.
Excellent. We
have got walls with, a road to our financial mission with all big stuff plastered on it. And we spend a lot of time on the road with lunch and learns and talking about where we are, because at the end of the day, I don't care whether you're a customer, one of our teammates, or a supply partner, you're worried about you. And it has to be incredibly personal. It can't be general, send out a great email with State of the Union.
Right.
It's the state of you. It's the state of you and your family. It's the state of you and your where your kids are going to school, or if you're having a tough time at home, or you're having a great time at home, or wherever you are, it has to be about you.
Yeah, I guess
It has to be very personal.
So how do you recognize that and make sure that the people feel valued in the company?
So, things like we recognize our rising stars and let them know they're rising stars, and we have to work really hard to make sure that they know it personally. So we did that, just announced the rising stars, and we do stuff like legends and things like that so that people know that you are being recognized for a very specific reason. We've got a sales blitz going on right now that Michael Sapkowski and crew put together that's rev it up. And
and he's SVP of Revenue Management.
Thank you for filling that in. So, there's car racing themes going on, and people, taking selfies, doing fun things with clients and finding. So it's just got to be fun. And then, people can work where they want to work in our space. So they can, hang out on the balcony and, when the sun's out, and work out there, and we have a couple of balconies, and it shouldn't be confining, but it should be purposeful. It should have a mission. People should know where we're going, and that takes a lot of work to convey that.
That's interesting to me. And you were also talking about you don't go through making people dress up all fancy to come to the office. I think you want them to be themselves and figure out how they could be most productive in the way that they can be productive. I find that a lot of companies that I've worked with in the past as an employee didn't really have that. It's the boss wanted to kind of control everything and tell you how to work, as opposed to understanding how the individual can be most productive and then nurturing them from that way.
Yeah, so what we all hope for is discretionary effort, right? And that's the secret sauce. Sometimes we achieve that in the business and sometimes we don't. You go through cycles. Right now we're going through a cycle. We're going through, transition from one model to another, transaction to solution, traditional to technology. And that creates a lot of uncertainty. So we have to overcompensate. Some teammates will be happy about it, and some teammates won't like it.
Right. Well, of course, some will love it, and some won't like it because they've done things the way that they've always done things. And now you're asking them to change. And in some instances, change everything that about what they've been doing to something completely new. It must not be easy to have a new mission for certain individuals.
That's tough.
Yeah. For me, I thrive on new things because I get bored by stuff after a while, right? I like to have everything, shake the tree a little bit.
I think of myself as a mayor,
right?
I serve at the behest of my community. And so there's going to be dissent within the community. It may not be the same people this year than last year because you got to fix the roads, you got to fill the potholes, and you got to make sure the water's working and the lights are on. And that's my job. And the city council is the leadership team, and they have the right to different opinions too. And I think everybody has to be heard. And then we have a direction, and we're going that direction together, and you listen. And as long as we're getting the feedback we're getting from, the truth is really in what the customer is saying and what the supply partner is saying. Right. So the first test is, and of course, our supply partners want demand, but you have to have a supply. So the first test is, will any of the supply partners, can they efficiently load on our platform? So we went from 0 last July to 144,000 and it's functioning. Then the second thing is there adoption by the consumers? And there is. So we're trading, it's working great. And so now our teams are seeing that this is working, and there's new jobs and there's new types of, innovation and exploration and career growth. And that takes a degree of belief. And I give a lot of credit to the team that hung in there.
But what about you in making such a massive shift with the company? It's a pretty ballsy move to do. How do you find the confidence in yourself to say, this is the right decision to do what we're going to do right now?
That confidence came from the team. I mean, we're very contemplative. We're very analytical. It's not like I woke up some morning and, I'm chomping back on my cornflakes and went, I got it. That wasn't it at all. We ran at some of the disruptors and hung out and chatted with them. Airbnb was gracious enough to host us at their shop, and we got to learn, and they got to learn about us. And we went to other travel experts and disruptors and hung out with them and brought that information back. And And, you see, you listen, you learn, you work through it before you go down the road. And then once we go down the road, then it's staging. You test, you learn, you test, you learn. And as we tested, we confirmed. So this is very prescribed in the risk management of the process. So at each stage, it confirmed that we should take the next step that was architected.
Okay, so it wasn't waking up one morning and making a giant decision. It was a series of smaller decisions that none really was bigger than the other. So by the end of it, you made 1,000 little decisions,
right?
And you're in the right place.
It's like Lego blocks, right?
Right.
You start with one and you see where you have a plan. You know where you're going. You're directionally going there. You're not going there blind. And you're trying to solve for a problem. And when you ask your customers and your supply partners what their pain points are, they've already set that destination for you. So you have to get there quickly.
Right.
Because the pain points change. But they shared that. So that was kind of easy. They told us what the problem was.
And then you went and you solved it. Well, you made that sound extremely easy.
Yeah, but I think of it like car manufacturing or how they adapt to technology. It's the same thing. They have a lot of focus groups. They put out concept cars. They throw it out there at the Geneva Motor Show, some kind of weird-looking futuristic thing. They get a reaction, and there's some version of that comes out somewhere in the future. So we think of ourselves in a manufacturing way. And you prototype it, you throw it up on a clay model, you see how that looks, you shape again, and you take, measured risk, but you are going to change.
Right. All right. So before we wrap up here, I think we got to talk a little bit about Here to Stay TV. Thanks for having me be a part of that and hosting all these fun interviews. I find it interesting that, not only have you created a bookable site with all of your people, but you're encouraging me as a host of this to go and interview, people that would traditionally be known as competitors. So genius, but crazy. I don't know which one. Maybe a little both.
I'm from the west of Ireland. Yeah. We're weather beaten, So at some point you have to be a little mad, right? Yeah. You're constantly being beaten by the Atlantic. So anything after that is pretty easy. So, what we want to be known for is open and sharing, right? So we want Here to Stay TV to be open. I can look you in the eye and say to you, I don't think I've ever told you or asked you to interview in a certain way for this whole community.
No.
What we're particularly interested in is a place where we're building a knowledge locker, where the views are unedited, they're posted, and we're giving something back. We're actually giving content to the person that was interviewed so that they can use that for themselves on their LinkedIn site or to encourage, maybe so many of them, I think, Glenn, I mean, maybe ask you a question. Of the people that you've interviewed, what's the percentage that have done this for the first time or close to the first time that aren't pros?
A big number, honestly. Just doing today. Today at the Business Travel Show, we probably did 10 interviews, and 3 or 4 of them said, I've never done this before. I'm pretty freaked out. Then do the interview, and everybody's really good. They just they answer the questions, they have a good time, and I think they feel good about themselves when they're done doing it.
Right. So if we've got somewhere around 40% of the population that this is the first time they've been on camera in a public environment that's being literally posted for eternity, and they walk away being confident and learning a new skill that is unedited, that's a great gift, and hopefully they'll think about our space differently and we learn something. So, you put that out there and see what happens.
Very, very clever. I like it also, and it engenders them to the company as well. So it makes sense to have that, makes them feel good about themselves, makes them feel good about BridgeStreet.
And then we put that back to the community and say, here's an expert in the airline industry, here's an expert in the car industry, here's how they're thinking, here's consultants, here's a wide range of experts in a place that's easy to digest and consume.
Right. Yeah, so I know you guys love No Vacancy News, or at least I tell myself that so I can sleep
do.
at night.
I
You
look
like
at
the
it
No Vacancy podcast?
Every one you post out there, particularly the Vegas ones. What's with you in Vegas?
I love-hate Vegas.
Yeah.
is what it is.
You spend a lot of time. Does your wife know that you spend this much time in Vegas?
She knows. As a matter of fact, sometimes I go to other places and she goes, "How's Vegas?" I'm like, "I'm not in Vegas. I'm somewhere else." But the fact is, I find Vegas to be extremely interesting as a place where experimentation happens in hospitality, in food and beverage, and all of these places, in design. So everything that I love, everything that I'm passionate about comes out in some vein in Las Vegas, and it's all in this 3-mile stretch, that it's just such a place of fascination for me to learn a lot of great stuff.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Total
so
sense.
that's why I love it. Plus, I have a lot of good friends I've met there over the years, and it's great to have them come on the show and tap into their mindset to understand where we are going in the future of hospitality. But what I was going to say before we started talking about me, which always makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable, is, I know you guys listen to this No Vacancy podcast. You're listening to it right now. Check out Here to Stay TV. Learn all about what's happening, not just in the service apartment sector, but all of travel in general. Like Sean was saying, airlines, car rental companies, travel managers, all of these important pieces of the puzzle that we sometimes forget about here in the pure hospitality industry. They're important to help you learn better for your career. They're important for you to learn what kind of strategies you should employ going forward. Any final thoughts there, Sean?
I think you've done a great job as always, Ben. So thank you for the privilege of being on your podcast.
Well, thank you for the privilege of sitting down and talking to me. Now we're gonna wrap up and get some scotch, which I like even more. So I'm excited about that. So I want to thank all of you guys for listening. It's been really great talking with you. The Business Travel Show is a lot of fun, and boy, do I have fun talking to all these CEOs week after week here on the No Vacancy podcast. Especially this guy right in front of me, Mr. Sean Worker. And I will be back next week with the No Vacancy podcast. That is, unless I decide to go and start a service department startup. I don't know. We'll see after I have a couple of scotches. Thanks so much. Be back next week.
Thanks so much for listening to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman, online at rouse.media, on Twitter at Traveling Glenn, and on Facebook.com/Glenn.Hausman. We'll catch you next time.